Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Emmanuel, and today we're going to be learning about animations. And in case you don't know, animations actually get your app from like low, ground, all the way to the top. It makes a huge difference, right? And it could just be a very simple animation. It doesn't have to be complex and having things jumping and bouncing up and down, right? It can just be very simple, moving, sliding animation, and that kind of stuff. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be learning how to implement a very simple animation, and basically this is what we're going to have. We're going to have like an alert dialog that slides in from the top all the way still to the top, but just a little bit lower, and basically just to simulate this kind of Apple's notification, that kind of thing. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. So if you like it, if this is something you want to learn, go ahead, smash the subscribe button, like the video as well, and let's jump right into it. Okay, so first of all, we're going to open a new project. So just create a brand new project, single view application. And we're going to go straight into our main.storyboard. And the first thing we're going to do is to add a UI view right in here. And then let's do it like this. And we're going to set a background color for this. And I'm just going to use like, let's use green. And next, we're going to add like a corner radius to the view. And here, we're just going to do like this, say corner radius. And this is going to be a number, and the value we can set as 20. Great. Next, we're going to add a label like this. And actually, I got to apologize for the noise. You know, this is Lego, so anyhow. So we're going to add a label, and we're going to add constraints to like 10, 10, 10, 10. And we're going to set this to be center aligned. So click on this, beautiful. And then finally, we're going to add constraint to this guy. And we're going to go 20, 20, 20, and that's all. Beautiful. Okay, so now here, what we're going to do is we're going to say hello animations. All right. Then finally, I guess I'm just going to add a little bit more padding at the top. So I'm just going to make this one 20 and make this one at the bottom 20 as well. Good. So this text we're going to make white. All right. So this is what we're going to have. Pretty good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create outlets to this view and the top constraint of this view. Because basically the way animations work is you have a view at a particular position in your screen. So taking this for example, we have this at, let's say, position, this is 10 across, I think, no, 20 across. So this is going to be position 20, comma, and from here to the safe area is going to be 20 as well, because this is 20. So this is going to be 20, comma, 20 if we are getting the view relative to the this safe area view. All right. So don't worry so much about what I'm saying. I'm just trying to say, when you have a view in a fixed position, if you want to animate this view to move downward, so if I wanted this particular view to move like downward, then I would basically modify the Y position. So if I were modifying the Y position, then we're going to have something like this as an animation, right? And basically what is happening here is that we are changing the value of Y from 20, for example, all the way to 50, right? And when we're doing that, we are updating our view continuously so that whenever the new value of Y is set, then the visual representation is updated. Okay, so that's precisely how animations work. So if I wanted to move it to the right, then I'd basically modify the X position. So if I were to modify the X position and increase it, then it's going to move to the right. If I were to decrease it, then it's going to move to the left. All right. So yeah, that's the general basic idea of that. And so with that in mind, what we want to do here is whenever we click on a button, so let's just go ahead and add that button right in. So there's a button here that says click me. Okay. So I'm just going to constraint this to center like this, update constraint. And basically when you click on this button, we want to slide this particular view in. So sliding it in basically means modifying the Y position. Or in our case, we're going to directly modify this top constraint. So currently the constraint is 20. So if I wanted to go away, I could make it like 200 or 220. So you can see that now it is out of the view. Now if I want to bring it into the view, then I'm just going to make it 20 and it's going to come in. Now imagine this happening and updating the view continuously. We're going to have that kind of slide-in animation, all right? So that's what we're going to do. Now, let's go ahead and create the outlets to both of these. So we're going to open up the assistant editor and these guys are coming up. Okay, so let's just hold down Command, Shift, and O, search for View Controller, hold down Option, press Enter. All right, it's going to bring this guy up. And now we can go ahead and click on this view, hold down Control, click and drag it over here. I'm going to call this Alert View. And next I'm going to add the top constraint. So just click on that, hold down Control, click and drag all the way here and say Alert View Top Constraint. Okay. Then finally we're going to create an action, IB action this time, to our click button, and we're going to say button clicked. Okay. So just go ahead and click on connect. And basically what we're going to do is whenever you click on these button, then we are going to hide or show this alert dialog, this particular view. Right? So we're done with the main.storyboard, so we can now go straight into the view controller. And let's go ahead and close this one out. Good. So now here, we're going to do two things. Whenever you load, because now let's go ahead and run this app so we basically see what we have. But when you launch the app for the first time, we're going to see that the alert is immediately visible, right? But what we want is we don't want this to be visible. So we want this guy to be hidden whenever the view loads. So how do we do that? We're just going to go over to our view to load, and we're going to say the alert view top constraint should actually be T there, so correct yours. So the constraint dot constant, and this is going to be equal to something. Now, before we set this value, let's actually see the position of the alert view. All right, so we're just going to log the alert view.frame. Now, if we run this, we're going to see that the alert is in X position 20, Y position 64, and then this is the width and the height. All right, so what we're going to do is I want to set the Y position to be negative this minus the height of the view. So that is going to basically take the this particular view out of bounds, or like to the top, negative value of the top. All right, so for us to do that, we're just going to continue what we're doing and say this constraint is going to be equal to the alert view dot frame dot origin dot y. All right, so this gives us the Y position, and we want to negate that, and we're basically going to subtract this from the height. So this negative Y position minus the alert view dot frame dot height. Okay, so when we do this and we go ahead and run the application now, we should see that the view is absolutely hidden. Okay, so this is good. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to create two functions. So we're going to create a function to show alert, and this is going to have a particular code. Then the second one is going to be to hide alert. All right, and for us to hide alert, we already have the code over here, so I'm just going to copy or cut that and put that in here, and here I'm going to call hide alert. Now for show alert, we're basically doing the same thing, but the only difference is the value of the constant is going to be 20, which is what we currently have here. So if you look over here, you can see that the value is 20, like this. So that's basically what we're doing. We're going to be setting the, whenever we want to show the alert, it's going to be 20. Whenever we want to hide, it's going to be negative this and negative that. So now we can go ahead and run this, and we should still have the same thing, because all we did was we moved the piece of code into a function. So now what we want to do is whenever you click on the button, this click me button, then we want to basically show the view if it is hidden, or hide it if it is visible. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a variable called is, what should we say? It's active, I guess. And initially it's going to be true, because by default it is active, right? It's visible here. So we're going to set that to be true. And then in our show alert, we're going to say is active should be equal to true. Then in our hide is active is going to be equal to false. Okay? And actually this doesn't really matter much, because whenever we call this, it's just going to set the active to be false. So whether or not this is true or false doesn't exactly matter, but we're just using that as our default value. All right, So now whenever you click on this button, what we want to do is we want to show or hide our alert, meaning that we're going to need to have a condition over here. So we're going to say if is active, then show alert. Else, nope. If it is active, then we want to hide. Otherwise, we want to show. Okay? Oof, what am I doing? Hide. So if it is active, hide it. If it is not active, show it. That's basically what this is doing. But what we're going to do is we're going to move this out, and we're going to create another function over here. So func, and this function is basically going to allow us to be able to animate our alert. So what we're going to say is animate alert. And this is basically going to take a parameter, show, which is going to be a Boolean, and then we can do something over here. So if it is show, then show the alert. If it is hide, that's if it is not show, then hide. All right. So just to go over this one more time, we created our view, we created outlets, and by default, whenever the app is loaded, we want to hide our alert. And hiding the alert simply just sets the constraint value to be negative the frame dot y position subtracted by the frame's height, all right, or the view's height. So then to show, we basically just set the constraint, the top constraint to be 20, all right, and makes it visible. Now what we're doing here is whenever the button is clicked, we want to animate our alert. So we're going to say animate alert, and whether or not this is going to be visible is going to be based off of the is active value. So if we want to show the alert if it is not active. Okay, so animate alert, show if it is not active, otherwise just hide it. All right, so what we're going to do, let's just run this so that I just want to make sure I don't confuse you. So I'm going to run this and let's see how it works. So we have this, I click on click me, you can see that it's visible. I click on it again, it's no longer visible. Click, 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 click. So basically what is happening is when this application loads, the value of is active is going to be set to false because we're going to call this function which sets the value to false. So it is not active, right? So when you click on the button, we want to animate the alert. So we want to show it. And since it is not active, it's going to come over here and then show it. So if it is not active, it means that this value here is true. And since it is true, it's going to come to the show and then show the alert, right? Now, the second time you click on the button, the value of is active is going to be true. And so it's going to say is true, not true. And since the value is true, it's going to say if it is not active, well, in our case, it is active. So this is going to be false. And if this is false, show is going to be false, and then it's going to come over here and hide. I hope that wasn't confusing, but if it is confusing, then just calm down, go ahead and watch it again. But basically what is happening is whenever you click on the button, show, whenever you click on it again, hide. All right, that's exactly what is happening here. Now to the main topic of today, we're trying to animate this particular thing. Now if you see over here, it is not animating, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to use a very simple function that's available in Swift, and basically what that is UIView.animate. All right, and we're going to be using this option here that has with duration and then the animations. All right, now when you talk about the with duration, this basically means how long do you want the animation to run. So in our case, I say, okay, let's make it run for 1 second, all right, or 0.6 seconds, so 600 milliseconds. All right, so this is going to be our duration of the animation. Then what exactly is going to be the animation? Basically, the animation is whatever we want to execute. Okay, so I'm going to paste that over here, and whenever you're working with closures, it's safe for you to just add like your weak self if you're going to be accessing any property that's in the self object. All right, so I'm just going to say weak self, and then here, since self is weak, you're just going to use optional chaining and paste this right over here. All right, so now that we've done this very simple thing, basically this single line of code, we can go ahead and we're going to run this again. But surprisingly, this is not going to animate. So let's go ahead and click me. You can see that it's still executing very quickly. So basically what is happening here is whenever we put a piece of code within the animation block, we're basically modifying a particular value. Now this is going to modify the value, and just like I said, whenever animations are happening, you're basically updating a property over time. Now, what is happening here is the property is updated, but the view itself doesn't reload or refresh until it is done. And when it is done, it then refreshes, but we see it in an instant, right? So a very quick fix to that is to just say self.view.layout if needed. Okay, now just go ahead and run this again. And now, if we click on click me, you're gonna see how it just slides in very eloquently. Beautiful. So click again, it slides out, click, slides in, click, slides out. Oof. So you can see how this single piece of code just made the difference. So rather than having like so sharp executions, you just have something that is a little more appealing and soft to the eyes. All right. Now, before we end this video, I'm just going to give you one more beautiful kind of animation. And if you're enjoying this so far, then maybe just consider clicking the like button. And you could also subscribe because I have some more beautiful things coming up concerning animations. All right. So the next kind of animation I'm going to show you is something called a spring kind of animation. So you can see how this animation just slides in just like that. So it's just moving straight, consistent kind of movement, and just goes like this and like that. All right. There's something we can do to make this a little bit more appealing. You can create sort of like a spring animation. You can make it bounce aggressively, or you can make it just casually bounce. All right. So that's what we're going to be doing here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create another function just so I don't mess with what we currently have. And I'm going to say spring animate. All right. So spring animate. And then again, we're going to have a property here that says show. So I want to show it if it is invisible or inactive, and hide it if it is active. Okay. So just like the UI view.animate, we still have another one. So we're going to say UI view.animate, but now we're going to be using this more extensive function. So this one that has like the spring, using spring with damping and the initial spring velocity. Right, so we're going to click on that, and let's actually go ahead and move these to the next line so that we see the various things that we have. Okay, and let's go ahead and start by filling out the things that we already know. So first of all, with duration, we already know that the duration is how long we want the animation to run. So for this, I'm just going to use 1. Let's make it run for like 1 second. All right, then delay is well, delay. Do you want to execute this animation after a particular delay? So maybe execute it after 1 second or execute it after 2 seconds, whatever kind of delay you want to add. I'm just going to go ahead and put 0 because I don't want any delay here. Okay. Then for this spring and damping, I'm just going to leave this for now. I'm going to come back to that. But for options, you can actually, we have access to like different options here. Curve ease in, auto reverse, repeat, curve ease in out. So you can basically choose whatever kind of animation option that you want. I'll go ahead and just select curve ease in out. All right. And actually another thing that you should note is that you can actually pass this as an array. So you just say put an array, and then you can select multiple options here. All right. So you can just do all of these things and just choose different things. All right. So like I said, and you can actually just choose to leave it empty. Right. Okay. So just whatever you prefer. So animations is exactly similar to what we currently have here. So I'm just going to copy that, and we're going to paste that in this block. So remember to say weak self in, and we're going to paste this over here. And then completion, basically what this means is, do you want to do something after the animation is completed? Yes or no? So for example, there are animations that you want to, after executing, want to remove that view from the parent view, or you want to initialize another animations, right? So you can do all of those in the completion block. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a print statement so you can see that the animation is completed. So the animation is complete. Beautiful. Now we're left with 2 more options. Okay, so using spring with damping and the initial spring velocity. Now for the using spring with damping, you can think of this as like a resistance. So imagine that you push something to a spring. You push a particular car or whatever object you push to a spring. Now, if your value is low, if the resistance is low, then it's going to just bounce all the way. So you can have more bounciness to it. So, but if the value is higher, it means that the resistance is higher. So if you come and you like hit the spring, then it's not going to bounce as much because the friction, the resistance is more, right? So just think of it like that. If whenever you have, if you set like a small value, so let me just set 0.1, and actually I'm just going to set this to 0 for now because I'm going to come back to this. But if you set your spring with damping value at 0.1, it means that the resistance is going to be lower, and if the resistance is lower, then the bounciness is going to be greater. So let's go ahead and run this so you can see what we have. And actually, we need to do something else. So rather than using the animate alert, we're going to use the spring animate. And this is going to be the same as is active. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this again. And now I'm going to click on click me, and ooh, you can see how the thing bounced. It bounced so much. So now that was hiding it. Show it again, it bounces so much. Hide it, it bounces so much. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to modify this friction or this resistance, and we're going to take it all the way to like 0.6. Let's go ahead and run this. And now, because the resistance is more, the bounciness is going to be reduced. So now when we click on this, you can see it bounced, but it bounced casually. So it goes back up, comes down, it bounces, and then it goes back up, and then it bounces, it goes back up. Pretty neat. So that's what this is about. And finally is the initial spring velocity. And basically what this is like it says, the initial velocity. So how much force does your view go by? And basically this is, if I were to go ahead and set this to 1, it's going to give it enough force to last the animation for a single second. All right. So let me show you what this is going to look like now. If I were to run this, and actually I think I'm going to have to reduce it. Okay, so let's go ahead and reduce this to like 0.2 or 0.1. Let's see what happens. So since we have like enough velocity for a single like execution of the animation, you can see what happens. It executed the animation. Let's go back in. It executed the animation and it bounced. But the moment that velocity was exhausted, it just like snapped into position. So let's do it again. Goes and snaps into position. We go again. Let's go. Snaps. Boom. But if we were to go ahead and increase the velocity, so let's increase it to like, let's say 4. Now you're going to see that it's going to have enough force. It's going to have enough initial velocity to cover the duration of the animation. And this is going to give you more complete bounce effect because there's enough velocity for this particular animation, right? So you can just go ahead and play around with these values, but most times, just like what I just did now, I had like 0.6, I think, and initial velocity, you can have whatever, you can even have something low. You don't need to have anything high or too serious, but basically you just blend both of them until you see the kind of animation you want. So you can see that this one has a lower initial velocity, and it has higher resistance. So the bounciness was more controlled, right? So if you were to go ahead and reduce the bounciness or the friction, if you will, then it's going to bounce a little bit more, okay? So this basically depends on how you want your animation to happen. If you want to just bounce something into view, then you can use a more bouncy approach. But if you want something that is more casual, more fluid, then you can use something with a little bit higher damping. Okay, so let's try it again. Ooh, cool. So this is basically, and again, remember, you can always modify the duration. So the duration is so slow, then you can go ahead and make it faster. So increase it to 0.3 and do this. It's just going to be so, because the damping is high. If you were to reduce the damping, then it's going to bounce even more with a faster animation. Okay, so yeah, that's basically what is happening over here. You can just go ahead and play. I think I like this one and one. So I like it like this. All right. Then yeah, you can actually also play around with the delay. You can say delay of like 3 seconds when I run this, and I click on this. 1, 2, 3. Did it go? Oh, maybe my second was too fast. But anyhow, after 3 seconds, then it executes the animation. All right. So this is actually the end of this particular video. The idea was just to teach you how you can create a very simple and basic animation. Simple, but it's extremely powerful. But in our next video, we're gonna go and do a little bit more interesting animation. So we're gonna do some rotation. We're gonna do some beautiful things. All right. So if you want to be aware whenever I release videos immediately, go ahead and subscribe. Also, turn on the notifications. Just click on the bell right at the bottom there. So whenever I release videos, you're aware. All right. So over the next couple of, maybe next 2-3 weeks, I guess, we're going to be covering animations. So if this is something you're interested in, stay tuned. And again, if you have questions, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. I'm going to definitely respond. And until the next video, you guys stay sharp.